Earlier in the week, I was lucky enough to catch up with a wonderful composer and classical guitarist. He's Stephen Caudel from Brampton. Such an interesting guy, and we had a good old chat. This is how we got on. Well, it's my great pleasure to welcome to the show a fantastic composer and classical guitarist. It is Stephen Caudel. Stephen, thank you for coming in and doing this for me.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
When I first heard your music, I kind of thought, I've just got to talk to you about this. The music I've heard, it does absolutely move you. The melodies absolutely sing by themselves, and they make you cry. They really do. Stephen, do you come from a musical family?
Ironically, no, I don't. Not at all. In fact, some would say I was not encouraged with music whatsoever. My parents believed that it was a bit of a waste of time. I remember at about the age of 12 being with my mother, and I remember telling her again, I really want to do something with music. And she said to me, oh, forget about it. She said, Simon and Garfunkel, people like that, they're on a different planet to us.
And that's quite interesting, because you mentioned Simon and Garfunkel. You actually worked with them.
I did, yes. I was lucky enough to tour with him on a very major tour, culminating in 3 nights at the Royal Albert Hall, which was a bit of a dream for me because I always wanted to play at the Royal Albert Hall.
Yeah,
and
who wouldn't? Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story about that. Actually, one of the amusing things about it is that when we were allocated our dressing rooms, I was the first half of the show, but I accepted I would have to have the small dressing room, the small, grotty, little old dressing room, of course. And Art was given the plush new dressing room, of course. Yeah. And I thought, wonderful, because when I got in it, I said, oh, would that be the one that Tchaikovsky used in Elgar? All these guys and Jimi Hendrix. They said, yeah, it is. That's the one.
And that's the one you want to be in, isn't it?
So, yeah, so I was in this wonderful dressing room.
You also you worked with Ronnie Scott's.
I did, yes. Another ambition fulfilled. And I did an acoustic set, playing excerpts from my first symphonic piece, which was called Wine Dark Sea. I did an acoustic unplugged set, so to speak. And as a direct result of that, there were some executives, I didn't know, but there were some executives in the audience from Pony Canyon Records in Japan, amazingly. And after the show, they invited me to tour Japan.
This, for me, is quite incredible. You're a classical guitarist, and you knew John Williams.
Yes, I got to know John a long time ago, yes. He was very kind about my music.
You're being humble about it, I think.
Well, we were performing in a wine bar in Mayfair we're performing swing jazz, a la Django Reinhardt, Stefan Grappelli. There was a guy in the audience who really liked what we were doing. He basically turned out to be an agent. Right. And he said, if you've got a tape of any music of yours, I could get it to John Williams for you if you like. He said, I know his address. He said, and I can send it to him. I made this recording of a piece called Nostalgie, which is just a beautiful tune for guitar with lots of guitar improvisation on it. And I got a call. We were living in a bedsit, and amazingly, it was John Williams. And he was so excited. He said, Stephen, he said, I just love your piece. He said, it would take me months to work out how you play guitar like that. Well, of course, John didn't really understand because he's not an improviser.
Yes.
For anyone who improvises,
yeah, that's right.
They will understand that a classical player will not natively improvise.
No, that's right. Yeah, It's all on the dots, isn't it?
Yes.
Pretty much for most people.
We developed into friends. In fact, John wanted me to be in Sky when they put Sky
really?
together. Yeah, he really wanted me in.
Carter and Fugue and all that. And,
yeah.
Your music, you orchestrate it all. Now, I've always kind of wanted to know this because I understand you have sort of horns, you have flutes and oboes. By the way, I love the way you kind of put a flute melody with the guitar melody and you blend them together. That's just a lovely sound. You hear it sometimes you'll get a flute and an oboe or something like that. I love it, the way that works. What is the process for creating an orchestration then?
If you're talking about the new album, Reflections in Blue, then on that I created the guitar work first.
Yep.
And then I just basically listened to it and I thought this is just like having a black and white line drawing. And I just want to put lots of colour onto it.
Yep.
And this is an interesting point in itself that I've always seen music in colour.
Yeah.
And I don't know, some people listening might think, is he crazy? But I'm not the only one. I mean, I know people in history like Vincent van Gogh, for example, saw music in colour. But it really is a case of just sitting down, concentrating, listening to the guitar work I'd written in that album and thinking, how can I embellish this now? And really, it's just like, as I say, colouring it in with lots of beautiful colours.
I love the album Reflections in Blue. Behind the Mask, for me, that kind of happens like 1 minute in, you get this great melody, and then it just builds and builds and builds. There's like jazz passages in it as well. You get bits where I think this is like Lee Ritenour or George Benson kind of thing, going on. It changes. So I do love that album for that. And Indigo Dream, it's actually now, that's become my favourite now.
That's
it wasn't
interesting
before.
You saying that, because members of my family, oddly enough, well, listening, my wife and my son, they both said to me recently, Indigo Dream's my favourite track now. In my mind, when I wrote Indigo Dream, the rhythmic figure, which goes that really, I was thinking An American in Paris by Gershwin.
Yeah.
In many ways, I was imagining traffic. And that kind of hustle and bustle.
Yeah. Moving on a bit then to now, to this Adel Rhapsody is
Yes.
the new thing you've just released now. You're not playing guitar on this.
No, I'm not. It's purely a composition.
Tell me about this tuba, because this all started in 1993.
It did. It started a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
It's a piece which started life when I went to a concert at Narworth Castle. And I got chatting with a lady horn player, and she said to me, she said, "You know what, I've got this dream of writing something for this little known instrument called the Wagner tuba." And it was more or less developed for Wagner's scores. And it's like a French horn, but with a much more noble, rich sound. Strangely enough, the range of it is exactly that of a guitar.
Oh.
So I felt instinctively, this is really natural for me to write. The primary aim when I write music is to try and get as much emotion into it as possible. You know, I like to try and move the listener. And so she felt very confident I'd be the right person to write what would be maybe the first work ever written for a solo Wagner tuba with orchestra. And it was premiered in Carlisle Cathedral.
Yeah.
And after that, my continued interest in the instrument led to me, out of interest, building a website called wagner-tuba.com. I thought, well, this instrument deserves a bit of publicity, you know, and a bit of love and care.
I love all of your music, I have to say. I mean, it's
Thank
a bit
you.
gushing, and I don't mean to be, but I just get things out of it all the time. And I think when you can listen to music like that and just keep getting new things out of it, that's just extraordinary music, isn't it?
Well,
So-
you're very kind, really.
I'll keep listening to it. How can we get hold of your music?
The easiest way is just to go to stephencaudel.com. Everything about my music's on the website, from the albums to the orchestral works. I mean, the point with the Adel Rhapsody, by the way, is the fact that last year I decided to revise the score and begin serious promotion of it.
Brilliant. Well, I urge everyone to go out and get a copy of Stephen's CD. I guarantee it will make you feel wonderful. You may cry, you may laugh, you may do all kinds of things, but emotionally, it's a great thing to listen to. Stephen Caudel, can I thank you for giving us an insight into your musical world? Thank you so much.
Really my pleasure.
Thank you.